Hey everybody! Almost ready for you. Maybe I'm ready now. Who knows? But the way the system's working here today, trying to figure this all out. Look at that. We got Mike in the chat. Miguel. Hello, he says. Hello, Steven, he says. So NHL playoff chat here, of course. I just want to get some predictions out there. If you got predictions as we talk about it, obviously, let me know what you're thinking here. As look, this is going to be just an informal. The show is kind of hard to get it out there because, uh, full of limited time, obviously, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time on it. And then, of course, later on tonight, actually, the Bulls are playing right now. I'm gonna do an NBA one here coming up as well. Probably around 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock tonight. It's just fun. You can join us. Of course, join me live for that or catch the replay as the tournaments are underway. Starting tomorrow morning, it's going to be a fun weekend of playoff hockey, of course. So he goes, Mike says, "Hey, why is that fortress blurry? Show out that penthouse of yours." No, it's just how my house. Look, I got a blind problem. I tried to fix it and I couldn't fix it, so I can't lean too far back. The no, I don't want to brag there about the fortress over here. You can see I got an orange chair back here. Got a giant TV here. I'm doing this from what we call the gaming room of the fortress here, and everything. So it's going to be maybe someday I'll do a tour of the house. How about that? Maybe someday, but not today. The room's kind of a mess. Kids have not been here all week, but it's amazing the amount of stuff I threw away to clear off this desk and everything to get to where I need to be in here. Because I'll just say this, kids, it's literally a trash can right here, but yet tons of soda cans, Gatorade cans, all of that stuff. Speaking of soda, I'm gonna open up me a Sprite. Not sponsored by Sprite, but hey, when you get the thirst quench, you got to get it, right? There, I have the door open, so hopefully the dog doesn't start barking here. But if it does, he does, she does, she does. It's gonna be fun there. So, yeah. So, no, my house is just blurry, Mike. That's all I can say about it. House is just blurry. Nothing I can do about it. What do you say? So, hey, are we ready to get started here? Of course. This is just a little informal thing here I wanted to get out there as we, of course, look at the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last night, of course, the Golden Knights lost, and the Kings won in spectacular fashion. So the Kings took over the 3rd spot. The Knights become a wild card team, which simply means that Dallas plays the Knights in the first round out here in the West, and the Oilers play the Kings. I think that's going to be a phenomenal series coming up. Guys, if you have any questions or you guys have any comments regarding the playoffs here as we go through it, but we're going to start in the East here as, of course, some big matchups here in the East Metropolitan Division. You got the Rangers against the Washington Capitals coming up here in this series. I don't, as I said, I had Uncle Lou on the show, of course, every Thursday at the main event, and Uncle Lou, I just don't trust the Rangers. They always falter in the playoffs. They always struggle. And they tend to, I don't know why I'm wearing these still. I don't need them anymore. I was just testing some stuff. They tend to struggle in the playoffs quite frequently. And I just can't trust them to go far. They have the talent to do it. Again, against, of course, the second wild card, the Washington Capitals here in this series. Look, Rangers, of course, 55, 23, and 4, 114 points on the season. The Capitals 40, 31, and 11, 91 points. And it's there's a big difference. Here's some stats here for you in this series. Rangers 55. I'm sorry, I just gave you the record. I don't know why I'm about to do it again. It's been a long day, right? But the leading scorer for the Rangers, 120 points on the season, 49 goals, 71 assists. For the Capitals, it's Dylan Strome. Of course, that's Artemi Panarin there for the Rangers. Dylan Strome for the Capitals, 67 points. Almost half in terms of the leading scorer for the the Washington Capitals. To me, this series is pretty easy. Washington's coming in. I don't trust the Rangers to make it far in the playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. However, I will say, and I'm looking up the other stat I had here really quick on this series, because I was trying to find ways to think that if I could figure out if the Capitals have any chance in this series, and I really couldn't find it. But I did find this stat. Let me see if I could just find it really quick here. If not, we'll just move on. But I've got, like I said, I'm doing an NBA one on later, and I got all my NBA stuff up here for some reason. I don't know why. But Stanley Cup, let's see here. I apologize for this. Because it was an interesting stat of this series, but it was something that, here we go, right here. It wasn't enough to sway me away from the Rangers. Of course, Florida is, like I said, a little iffy. If I'm sorry, Washington's a little iffy if they can do anything in this series. So, of course, the President's Trophy winner generally struggles in the playoffs in the NHL, as you guys know, or anybody that follows hockey. And the Rangers did win the President's Trophy with those 114 points that they got there. And Mike says, my picks will be strictly based on who I want to win, not who I think will win. So he says Rangers. Well, I agree with you. You know, the Rangers should win this. I don't. I would like to see Washington, man, Ovechkin, right? Old man Ovechkin out there. So can the Rangers fly under the radar? Can the Rangers get it done with the President's Trophy? Generally, last year Boston won it. Was out in the first round to Florida. But you know, it's the you know, Washington, can they step up with their old age, with their injury problems? I just don't think so. Maybe our bold boy Tom Wilson will do something in this series and kind of change it around. I do have the Rangers winning this series. However, let me get my winners up here. I don't think it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be, dare I say, oh, look at that. Screw that up by any stretch of the imagination. But I do believe that the Washington can, because they just keep finding ways to win games. I think they can, you know, win one or two games, maybe a third game, push this to a game seven. But the Rangers are winning this series, of course. Now that I know that I've screwed up my logo there, Mike has the Rangers as well here. Let's go up to the next game here, of course. You have got the Florida Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. To me, this is going to be a fantastic series. The Battle of Florida, as you can say. Florida last year, of course, made it to the Stanley Cup final when they were an 8 seed. We're just supposed to. They barely made the playoffs last year. And this is the Battle of Florida. Tampa Bay, old grizzled veterans, Stanley Cup champions, have done well in the playoffs in the past, have the pedigree of playoffs in their packet. Not quite talented as much as Florida is. It's you know, like I said, it's you know, featuring the Panthers, who very physical team. That's how they got to the finals last year. Tampa Bay had the NHL's top power play this season, 28.6% success rate. Florida had the sixth best penalty killing unit, along with 4 players who earned 80 minutes or more in penalties on top of that. So Florida, of course, plays very physical. They will go in the penalty box. And Tampa Bay led the NHL in top power play. So if Florida loses at school and Tampa Bay is able to take advantage of it on the power play, they will hang in this series as they keep going. This is, of course, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Nick Cousins for Florida. It's just those are the question marks with Florida that I got. Are they going to be able to keep their heads above them? Are they going to be able to stay out of the penalty box and to contribute to the team? Or is it going to be like when they got to the Stanley Cup final last year, where they the Knights didn't fall for their gimmicks and the Florida was not able to win it there? So penalty trouble is going to be the key to this game. Tampa Bay taking advantage of that as well is going to be the side there. I will say, you know, pedigree suggests Tampa Bay has the edge in terms of goalkeepers in this series. Valslecki, geez, if I could talk, over Bobrovsky in this series. But Bob last year got hot, right? Bobrovsky for Florida. So can he get hot again? You know, I'm not sure it's that big of a gap as it was in the past here. To me, this is one of, if not the best series, at least on the eastern side of the NHL playoffs coming up this weekend. So Um, Tampa or Florida. I can tell you this. This series is going to go 6 or 7 games. Mike is saying the series will be better than the upcoming Cup series. I don't. Depends who gets there in the West, man. The Oilers. I know a lot of people are picking them, but they're looking fantastic. Can the Knights get healthy going into this playoffs on a playoff run? Now they got a tough matchup in Dallas. But you might be right. This is a fantastic opening series. I do think it's going to go 6 or 7 games. I'll say this as well. If it goes 7 games, Tampa is going to win this series. If it goes 6 games, Florida is going to win the series. There, you've got Tampa Bay, Mike. I have Florida winning this series against, of course, Tampa Bay. I just think that Tampa's getting just up there a little bit, and I think Florida is just going to beat them up as the series goes on. So, but I agree. This is probably the best first round series, at least on the East side. Maybe the West as well. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. Next series here, you got Boston Bruins versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto made it past the first round last year for the first time in something like 800 years, forever. Now, of course, have Matthews, of course, 69 goals this season. Boston Bruins, had the best record in hockey last year, flamed out against Florida in the first round. Mike says, "You're going down, Steven." Oh, we'll see. Florida, Tampa. If every series will be this good, this is going to be a great playoff run. But Boston, last year, did they learn anything by losing in the first round last year to Florida when they had the best record? I don't know. Are they determined to come in and show that they belong in the playoffs? I don't know. It's Boston, right? This is obviously an old rivalry between the Bruins and the Maple Leafs here. Now, the Boston is a team that does look better on the ice than it does if you look at the piece of paper. But when you watch Boston play, you're impressed with the way they play, the physicality, as well as how they can get some goals going. But if you look at the paper, you don't think they're very talented at all. It's kind of interesting in how that works. You don't see that too much. It is hard to get obviously excited about the roster of Boston. It's just a bunch of guys, right? David Pastrnak, of course, Brad Marchand as well. The Bruins are a classic case of the team is better than the sum of its individual parts. That I agree with. Like, I would almost go to say no superstars on the Boston team. Now, obviously, David Pastrnak and Marchand will disagree with me on that statement, but it's just guys, and they go out there and they work hard. Now, is that enough to beat Toronto? Toronto's an offensive force, but we all know in the playoffs, especially in the NHL, offensive forces doesn't mean anything. Defense rules the thing. Goaltending rules the name of this game. A goaltender gets hot. Doesn't matter if you're the 1 seed or the 8 seed. You're gonna go far in these playoffs. Toronto, very talented team. Very offensive explosion. They're good individual parts. We already mentioned Austin Matthews, William Nylander, of course, Mitch Marner, John Tavares. So look at that. We've already named 4 players in Toronto that's anywhere better than what Boston is in this series in terms of individual players. Now, as a team, it's interesting because Toronto will fall apart as a team in the playoffs, and their individual parts kind of don't work together anymore. That's been the MO of Toronto in the playoffs past. Does Toronto come out and beat Boston? Mike says yes, Boston wins this series. Do I go against you again, Mike, is the big question here. And if you're joining us, I see a few other people hopping on. Go ahead and join us on the chat as well if you'd like with your picks. We're just going through the East here right now. No, Mike, you're wrong again. Toronto gets this win here against Boston. I think offense is going to be the difference in this series. And I know playoffs. I just think that Boston's goaltender is not going to be able to keep a lot of those pucks out, and they're just not going to be able to get up and compete with Toronto scoring. And, if Toronto gets a 2-3 goals in this game, Boston's just going to have a hard time keeping up with them. So I do have Toronto winning. I'll say Toronto in 6 in this series as well. So Toronto does advance in this series. Of course, we talked Rangers and Capitals here earlier. But the other big series here, New York Islanders, tough, young, physical team in the East here, right? They fought their way into the playoffs. They had to earn their right in. They are terrible at 3-on-3 hockey. Terrible in overtime. Terrible if they have to score a lot of points, the Islanders are. But this is a first round me match from last year, and it looks like a mismatch. It really does. I mean, right away, Carolina should dominate this series if you just look at the overall process of this here. Carolina finished 17 points ahead of the Islanders. Of course, like I said, Islanders have come on at the end there and fought to get into the playoffs. The Islanders have been a different team since Patrick Waugh, of course, replaced Lane Lambert as coach way back in January, of all things. Back then, they were sixth in the Metro, 2 points out of the final wild card. And they finished 20, 12, and 5 with Patrick Waugh as their head coach. Went on a 9-1-1 run. So they've played their way into the playoffs. They've earned their playoff spot here, of course. There are some. There's only Patrick Waugh can get the best, right, when he was with Colorado back in the day. Turned them around as well, and it's going to be interesting to see. The problem that the Islanders, I think, has. It's just that Carolina's manpower is just going to be so much better. Goaltending is going to be better. And then just the overall talent on the ice over the Islanders. Speed is going to kill in this series. So unless the Islanders can just, ham up the Carolina Hurricanes and just slow them down, other than that, it's going to be a long series here for the Islanders, I think. And the Islanders just got to get some more offense here. The speed of Carolina, even though it is the playoffs and things do slow down, I do think is going to be a huge problem in this first round. Mike has Carolina winning this series here. I mean, I think you can tell here, this is going to be Carolina in 5 or 6. It's not even going to be a very good series at all. It's a mismatch on paper, and it's most certainly a mismatch on the ice as well coming up here. So in the east side here, of course, right, Rangers, Capitals. I have the Rangers winning this series going into this weekend. I do think Capitals can win. They'll win one. It's not going to be a sweep. They might win the two. But this is Rangers in 6 minimum here in this series, I think. And I just think it's just scoring opportunity for the Rangers. I don't trust Rangers much after that. But in this first round, I will stick with the Rangers. Florida, Tampa Bay. This is the best series of the playoffs, at least on the east side. Probably the whole playoffs. We do have one series that might contend with that here in the west when we get to that. But Florida, Tampa Bay. I do have Florida winning this in 6, actually. If it does go 7, I will flip that and say Tampa wins in 7, as I said. Boston, Toronto. I actually have. You know what? Can I change? I'm gonna. You know what? Mike, you kind of upset me here with this Toronto. I said Toronto was going to win this series in this first round. You know what? I'm going to change my pick here. I'm going to go with Boston winning this series over that. I'm going to go with you on this one, Mike. Not that you swayed me, sir. Not that you swayed me, but you know what? The more I think about it, I'm just worried. Toronto's offense and their speed, I think Boston's going to struggle that, but I'm going to go with the better team instead of the individual parts guys in this series. I'm going to switch that to Boston here over Toronto when I was doing the big description here. I'm going to go with the upset here and go with Boston, at least an upset from what I said earlier, and I'll go Boston in 6. You know what? Boston in 6 sounds really good there. See, so Mike, you kind of convinced me of that there. As the more I sit here and think about that, and I've done all these graphics, I've been researching everything, and I went back and forth in this series. I just like the Rangers. I'm putting my trust in the Rangers in the first round, even though I probably know I shouldn't. It's just their matchup is good. Mike says, "No, I can't pick on you when Boston wins." So that's why I'm doing it. Actually, take the power out of your hands, Mike. But no, I just, the more I think about it, man, I trust the Rangers. I can't go with 2 teams that you can't trust in the playoffs. So I am going to flip that to Boston. Plus, Boston, I'm hoping Boston learned bet off of last year, winning, being the best team in the league. And I'm just hoping that. So I do have Boston over Toronto. I changed that one here. Nothing's official till the show's over and the graphics are up. So that's the way we do here on the main event. Carolina Hurricanes, I have over the Islanders, and this is going to be a complete mismatch series. If this isn't 5, it's definitely going to be 6. So I do have Carolina there. So I'm getting messages saying, move out of the light with the blinds. I tried masking that, and it didn't work. The sun's blaring directly into it. And the more I move, the more I forget about it. And now I'm getting texts from people saying, get out of the lights. Private messages. So maybe I just want a little bit of light on me, some dots. Down my face, stupid blinds, right? Let's get over on the west side, of course. Obviously, let's get out of this Coyotes news, right? With the Coyotes moving up to Utah. It's been depressing around these Phoenix parts and everything. But let's start off first with the Winnipeg Jets, Colorado Avalanche in this series. And officially, Colorado is going to be a slight underdog in the series, which shocks you a little bit with the pedigree of the Avalanche, the way that they play, the players that they do have on their team. And the Winnipeg Jets overperformed the regular season. I just don't know if anybody has faith in the Jets going into this series. Obviously, if Colorado is the underdog on the betting lines, people are looking at the Jets a little bit. But Winnipeg sees home ice advantage. They rattled off 8 wins in a row to finish off the season. They, of course, struggled in March. They did rebound from that. The Avalanche, though, just lost repeatedly down there. They were up 3-0 against the Knights. Last weekend of the season. Knights came back and won 4-3, and they were down 3-0 in the first period. By the way, the Knights were. Just the Avalanche have stumbled and just not played well at the end of this season. And of course, their goaltender, of course, Georgiev, has just struggled beyond belief. And you cannot go into a playoffs with a struggling goaltender. You cannot go into playoffs and expect to win in the playoffs with a goaltender that's struggling. And so that is the big thing. The NHL leader in victories was the Avalanche goaltender with 38, but he is also 34th in goals against average. 3.02 is his goals against average. He's tied for 38th in save percentage in the league as well. And he has been terrible. Terrible. Which for NHL playoffs is a recipe for disaster. The matchup in goal heavily sways to the Jets side. And for that reason alone, Mike, you're picking the Jets. And that reason alone, Colorado is going to live. Now, can they wake up in these playoffs and be the championship pedigree team that they are? Sure, absolutely. The problem is what Avalanche goaltender is going to show up in terms of the hot one or the cold one. And if anything says anything these last couple weeks, is any sign is the Avalanche are going to struggle on the goaltender side, which means, of course, a loss in the series if we get to that. So Colorado does have a Hart Trophy candidate, of course, Nathan MacKinnon. He ain't going to go down without a fight. Been in the league a long time, won some Stanley Cups. He isn't going to go away at all. Colorado was upset in the opening round last year, of course, to the Seattle Kraken, the expansion team. And partly on that series, if you look back at that series, Colorado's 1-12 depth beat the Avalanche's star power, which is the same concept I had here with Boston and Toronto, where I switched to the Boston pick here after talking about it. That's the same thing. The sum of the team is more than the individual parts, especially with the Avalanche. They lost last year with these stars, and and the depth of the Jets is going to kind of cause some problem here as well for Colorado. So, of course, Winnipeg just being deeper. Winnipeg's goaltender is playing way better than, of course, Georgiev there of Colorado. And Colorado's limping into the playoffs. I do not like that at all. Mike says Jets in this series here. And for those of you that have hopped on, go ahead and give us your picks as well. But I do have Winnipeg winning this series. I do think it's going to be a harder series for Winnipeg Jets than you think it's going to be. But as that series goes on, there's going to be a little bit more of an advantage. This is going at least 6. I would not be shocked if it goes 7, but Winnipeg is going to win this series here. Vancouver Canucks, Nashville Predators. I breathe in my own air and can't talk. The interesting thing is Vancouver, you got to worry about them. They easily made the playoffs. They were one of the best team, if not the best team in the West this year. They've stayed healthy, of course. Basically, they've had nothing to play for a while, Vancouver. How does that mean they're going to come in and play in this first round of the series here against Nashville? It's going to be interesting. The case. How is goaltender Demko there? Is he going to be? He missed 14 games with a knee injury, and of course, then they haven't been playing well. Vancouver was 34-13-2 with him before he did miss those 14 games. But here's the problem: in the 31 games without their star goaltender, They won only 15 times. Yikes. Look, this is a case where Vancouver needs their starter and Demke healthy. They need him in, or excuse me, Demko, and they need him in there healthy, and they need him to play well. They've come into the playoffs with nothing to play for, and that worries me. If we're going to talk about, of course, the Vancouver Canucks, it's going to be interesting to see. Nashville, however, not too bad in goal either. If you want to look at that, Saros, when he is good, when he's playing well, he can steal a game and he will win one or two games in this series minimum. Just him being in goal means you're going to win two games probably in this series. Now, can you get past that to get the other two? Is the question. Of course, they have Nashville has star defensive players, which is what you need in the playoffs. And they're out there, and the top line for Nashville is extremely, extremely fast and extremely talented. It's been excellent. The problem is once you get past that top line, there is a noticeable drop off here for Nashville, and that does what worry you. Depth on Nashville, it's kind of scary. So can their goaltender keep them in the game and win this series is the biggest question here. So every year in the NHL playoffs, right, everybody looks for there's two or three underdogs that end up winning in the first round. It's not a clean slate. It's usually not a chalk run here. And is Nashville good enough to do this over Vancouver? Because this would be a huge upset. I don't know. Mike, what do you got there? I haven't seen your text yet. So the Predator coach is better as well. Mike says Nashville winning this series. The coaches is better in terms of Nashville as well as Vancouver. I just, with all those factors, Vancouver's goaltender situation, although he is healthy, missed a lot of games, but how healthy he's going to be as the playoffs go on in these battles. But Nashville's depth worries me a lot as well. So here's the debate. Mike has Nashville in this series, and I can tell you this right now as well. I got Nashville in 6. Nashville in 6. Vancouver's going to be one of those guys, one of those teams that is upset in the first round after having a fantastic regular season. It's just Nashville's not going to go much farther than that, I don't think. But in this first round, this is a favorable matchup for Nashville. Of course, this is the series I was talking about. You got Dallas and the Knights coming up as well. But along with the Florida-Tampa Bay series, which is, if not the best series in the playoffs, I'll tell you this, the Oilers-Kings is next up for me in this series. A lot of people have the Oilers going to the finals and making it to the Stanley Cup final. A lot of people think that's going to happen. Everybody wants to avoid the Oilers in the playoffs. And the Kings match up with them. The difference is Kings are physical. They are a very defensive team out there. 2 years ago, the Oilers, which were a completely different team, they needed 7 games to defeat the Oilers. 6 games last year to beat them. It is a tough matchup for the Oilers against the Kings here. But, the Oilers are just so much better this year than they have been in the past over the Kings. So the Kings started the year extremely well, struggled. They ended up firing their coach. They tried to move to a more up-tempo style game under their new coach. It did not work for them at all. They just aren't built that way. And unfortunately, let me get out this light here again. Geesh. So now they're back to playing that grinding defensive style of hockey that will work favorably for you in the playoffs here going forward. The question is, right, you got Connor McDavid, 100 assists this season. I'd like to move the puck around. They continue to have just an offensive juggernaut with Leon Draisaitl as well there for the Oilers. It's an interesting series for me. LA does not have the offense that the Oilers has, so can their defense hang into this series is the only question that you got here in this series. So Mike comes in and says he's got the Oilers winning this series. I've seen people saying Oilers going to the final a lot today while just looking stuff up and getting updates on everything as getting everything set for this weekend. I think McDavid's going to be on a mission, right? He does a lot of assists this year. The Oilers have underperformed the last couple years, especially in the playoffs. And I think this is going to be the year for the Oilers to go on a run. I'm not going to predict they're going to the final yet. Let's see how they play in this first round. But I do think this is their year. LA, if they haven't regressed, they've stayed the same, and that's deadly, especially in the third year of staying the same. And that's why I don't have any faith that the Kings are going to be able to win this series here as well. So I do have Edmonton winning this. The question that I got is it 5 or 6 games that Edmonton's going to win this? And I'm going to say it's 5. This is going to be a quick series, I think. Edmonton is just going to overpower with the speed, the puck movement. They're gonna play a lot in the Kings zone with that defensive style, and the Oilers are going to be able to get the puck put in the net, unless the Kings goaltender just does some. He's no Jonathan Quick back when they won it, a few years ago from the 8 seed. So can the Kings goaltender keep him in it? And I don't think he can. The Oilers are just that much better. So I do have the Oilers winning in this series against the Kings. Then I saved this for last because it's my team. Obviously Coyotes leaving. You guys know that have watched me and been around for a while. That look, I'm a big Knights fan, no doubt about it. They're going to become my main team until Phoenix gets another one back now. Kind of just root for them as a history for Vegas and family. And I know what this team means to the Vegas side. They got a matchup against Dallas, the rematch of the Western Conference Finals last year. Dallas is so good, physical good, more so than they were last year in the Western Conference Finals. The question is, what are the Knights in this series? We know what Dallas is going to be. They're going to be a tough physical team that can score on you. The Knights, are they overcome these injuries? Aiden Hill's been terrible in goaltender lately, just terrible. Can they find a goaltender that gets hot in the Knights? Mark Stone going to be healthy for this playoff run. Eichel, they're getting older there in the Knights side. They won the trophy last year. Is that set them up for another run this year, right? The other thing, Dallas is kind of overlooked in NHL media circles, especially on the media side. Obviously, players aren't looking over them at all. But look, in Dallas, of course, Jason Robertson, he's the only one that crossed the 70-point threshold this year. He had 80 points. It's 27th in the league there. The next highest, Joe Pavelski, is at 67 points. He doesn't even crack the top 75. Their strength is depth in terms of Dallas, and they will beat you up. They're more like a Florida team to me, where we talked about Florida's physicality, which I think is going to get them past Tampa on the eastern side here in the first round. But their strength is depth. 6 players had 60 points or more for Dallas this year. It's a quiet team. You don't think they're good, and then next thing you know, they punch you in the mouth, and then they just beat you, and they skate off and go to their next game. It is sneaky good how good Dallas is here, and that can win in the playoffs, especially on the NHL level. So defensively, of course, they made some moves at the deadline to improve that defense. And look, now go to the Knights side. I've already given you kind of the highlights here. Defending Stanley Cup champion. They're banking on last year's run. They've had some success in the playoffs. A lot of these main guys. They had the second most game minutes lost to injury. The team that had worse was, I believe, San Jose. One of the teams that's last in their division. I think it was San Jose. It was the only one that had less games missed per minute due to injuries there. And it's easy. Aiden Hill helped the Golden Knights win it last year, but this year, he's had some holes on his side. The Knights played here in Mullet Arena against the Coyotes a week ago, last Friday. It was their second to last home game ever here, unfortunately. And Aiden Hill did not play that game, and they gave up 6 goals in the third period to the Coyotes. So it's goaltending worries the heck out of me for the Knights. Jake Ottinger for the Dallas. He could be off and on. Which one is he going to show up? Is the question mark there. But the Knights goalie could just bothers the heck out of me. Dallas is, going to be physical. You like physical hockey. This is what you are going to see. And like I said, they hit you in the mouth. You don't even know what hit you. They walk away with a victory. That is the danger here for the Knights. So this is a matchup. This is why I'm shocked the Knights played so bad the other night, or when was that? 2 nights ago now? No, it was last night. So I'm shocked the Knights played so bad and lost that game, because they could have been the 3 seed. But the Edmonton Oilers aren't a good matchup for him either. But at least the Oilers won't beat you up like Dallas will. So I don't know, man. The Knights are an interesting position. Goaltending definitely favors Dallas here in this series. I got some other stats here for you. 8 forwards. Dallas is, like I said, just works like a machine. They have 8 forwards who scored between 21 and 32 goals. Like I said, around that 60-point range is what I told you earlier. Every line that Dallas puts on the ice will probably have somebody that has scored 20, 25 goals and multiple assists. And so their lines are deep. So the fourth line is going to have guys that can put goals into the net. The goaltending matchup does favor Dallas here. Hill was so good last year in the playoffs. He was making stops and diving and making blind stops. I don't know if he can do that again, right? They're not going to take anything for granted, the Knights. They have the pedigree to win. They beat them last year in the playoffs. Does that give Dallas a little bit in the Western Conference Finals there? Does that give Dallas a little bit more of a revenge factor here in this first round? You've got to stop the Dallas speed. You got to stop their transition game, if you want to use basketball terms. They'll play down on their defensive side. They'll be physical with you, and then boom, they're on the other end of the ice, putting the puck on net. Vegas has to be ready for that and be able to stop it. So this is going to be a great series. I do think this is a great matchup, just like it was last year in the conference finals as well. Here's the question. Can the young stars of Dallas, can the Dallas goaltender outperform the Knights goaltender? And can they beat the veterans of the Knights? I can tell you this. Mike has the Knights. A lot of people that claim to know they talk about hockey, a lot of the experts, if you will, are saying Dallas wins this series. Dallas wins this series in 7. And I don't see very many people picking the Knights, Mike. My initial reaction is Dallas is going to win the series. My initial reaction is Dallas is going to win the series in 6 or 7. My initial reaction is this is going to be a very, very good series. Now, so between the Oilers, Kings, Florida, Tampa Bay, and then Dallas Knights, we have 3 fantastic series. Like I said, rank them as you want. I think maybe Florida, Tampa might be the best. But I'm going to love this Dallas Knights series in terms of the way they're going to play. Oilers Kings, to me, like I said, does turn out to be a little bit of a matchup, even though a lot of people think it's going to be a good series. Everybody's got Dallas, man, Mike. But you have the Knights, and I have the Knights winning this series in 7. It's going to be a hard-fought battle. I think veteran, I think pedigree, and I think the Knights are coming in healthier than what we've seen them in a while. And I think that the Knights win in this first round over Dallas, and their struggles in the playoffs continue to happen, and it's going to be a fun first round of the playoffs. So just to rehash, I'll throw up here real quick the NHL playoff round 1 picks for you so you guys can see what my picks are. As I said, Rangers, Panthers. I changed it to Boston during the show. I had Toronto going into the show, changed it to Boston. I just cannot trust Toronto and their stars to not put it together against a team that plays like a team. Carolina is going to surprise people here, and they're going to dominate this Islanders series. It's going to be a bloodbath for the Islanders. See what happens in the second round. Then, of course, we just talked about the Knights. I got them. Predators. Nashville beating and upsetting a very good Vancouver Canucks team in the regular season. I think that does not help Vancouver, and I think they go down to Nashville. The Jets over the Avalanche, that comes down to goaltending 100% and the speed of the Jets. I just think there's going to be a little too much. And they've just came into the playoffs hot, whereas the Avalanche have kind of stumbled in. Oilers-Kings is going to be a mismatch, and the Oilers are going to dominate this series. If this is not a 5-game series, that will be a 6-game series. So I want to thank everybody for joining me here today. Of course, as I wanted to get some more in-depth knowledge here on the NHL playoffs and get it on record. Like I said, the show's an interesting place to get stuff going. But if I can work my graphics there, geez. Mike says our only different pick is Tampa versus Florida. Oh, really? Oh, really? We picked mainly the same. I was naming your picks, and I can't even remember it, Mike. Well, that's unusual for you because you're usually right on your picks, and I'm usually not. So, That sucks for you, Mike. So I wish I could fix that window blind there. But hey, everybody that's tuned in, I appreciate you. Thanks for participating on the chat as well. Looking forward to this hockey playoff in this first round. We'll, of course, come back, make second round predictions when we get to that level. And everything. I'm going to go grab some dinner, watch some basketball here, waiting for the hockeys to start tomorrow. And of course, I'll be back here. If I had to guess, 7:30ish, maybe 8 o'clock. I want to see kind of if we have a thought on who's going to get that 8 seed in the West. To be honest with you, I don't think it matters, but the Kings do change my opinion on a couple things. So appreciate it. I'll get this out on the social medias for everybody with the link if you want to watch that later on or share it. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you tuning in. And don't forget, man, I'm Stephen McCollum, of course, from the Main Event show. You can catch us on any podcast form. Of course, WTSM TV if you want to watch the show live. With Dale Hellestrae, 17-year NFL veteran, 3-time Super Bowl champion. Izzy, of course, Isaiah Jackson Jr. is on the show as well. And if you don't want to subscribe there, that's fine. We put it out for free also on the podcast system. So look us up. This week is all up there. Today's was posted earlier today. Usually it's up around noon. Look, NHL hockey's here. Let's go, NHL playoffs.